This is your Star Wars comic canon update for the month of November. In November, we saw the release of Poe Dameron issue number 8, Star Wars issue number 25, Han Solo issue number 5, and the second Star Wars annual. So let's go ahead and start with Poe Dameron issue number 8, and here's a refresher just in case you forgot or you're not up to date. It is a time of uncertainty in the galaxy. Standing against the oppression of the First Order is the Resistance, including Poe and his team of pilots, Black Squadron. General Leia Organa has tasked Poe to locate information vital to the survival of the Resistance. The location of Luke Skywalker. Their first mission revealed a new enemy, Agent Tyrix of the First Order Security Bureau, an awesome new villain. They survived their first encounter with Tyrix, but the First Order officer vows to destroy them. Now Poe is certain someone in his squadron is feeding information to the First Order about the Resistance and its allies. This issue begins with Poe beating up a punching bag while thinking about who on his crew could be the spy. As he's close to all of them, knowing them for many years, it makes him sick to think one of them is the traitor. Poe now feels he can't trust his squadron, and he blames it all on Tyrix. Meanwhile, Tyrix is on the Carrion Spike, and his crew is getting a bit antsy as they repair the ship and wait to see what he has planned. We know Tyrix refused an order from Phasma to return to First Order space in a previous issue. Tyrix needs alone time, and here we see some of his past. He was a stormtrooper with the Empire and fought on Jakku at the end of the Empire. Once it was clear the Empire had lost, a fellow stormtrooper, Korlak, shot their commander and told Tyrix, who at the time was designated TK-603, that the Empire had lost and they needed to lose their armor for when the rebels went hunting down remaining troopers. They bury their armor and go into the nearest settlement to lay low for a while and work to get off the planet. The man tells Tyrix that if he's lucky, he'll never see that armor again. In the present day, we see Tyrix standing in front of a collection of armor from the Empire. Meanwhile, Poe, partly in his distrust of his squad, is giving another person he knows that isn't on his squad, Adi, the chance to get experience flying his ship. The idea is Poe knows he'll eventually have to replace the traitor in his squad. At that moment, C-3PO shows up with information Leia wanted him to share with Poe. C-3PO explains that he maintains a network of well-placed individuals who share information with him that might aid the Resistance. He doesn't consider them spies as they're all droids, and droids are everywhere, and they don't have to sneak because their existence grants them access to some of the most sensitive spots in the galaxy. And no one pays attention to droids as long as they do their job. He even mentions that about the Resistance base, which might be hinting that maybe the spy is actually a droid. Anyways, one of C-3PO's droids working on the planet Kadak sent a transmission indicating it had a trove of information about the First Order, including the location of Snoke. However, the agent's transmission was interrupted before it could send the data, so now Leia wants Poe and one other pilot to go with C-3PO to the planet to find the droid and the information. Because Poe feels he can't trust his squad, he brings Adi with him instead. They board a ship typically used for smuggling, as is their cover, and they head to the planet. Phasma tries to reach Tyrix again, but he ignores the call. Tyrix disables communications, engines, and weapons on the ship. Another flashback shows Tyrix rebuilding a ship on Jakku and getting off the planet with his stormtrooper buddy. Before they leave, he goes back to get his armor, believing that the rebels can still be fought back. Korlak wants him to let it go, but Tyrix refuses. Back in present time, he tells the crew to do what they want and keep his ship in good repair until he returns. He says he needs to find something important he lost. We see Tyrix in old armor, and he is on the planet Kadak, the same planet as Poe. So who likely is the traitor? There's a chance it could be a droid, as C-3PO said, that they can get to most places without notice. Adi seems to be an obvious choice. Poe distrusts his crew and then actually takes in the spy and gives him more access to the things. Would be a bit cliche, but I can see it happening. It definitely isn't Jess or Snap, as both of them are still in the squadron in The Force Awakens. Chances are if they were the spy, Poe wouldn't keep them around even if they apologized. Snap and Jess are also in future books, so that makes them even less likely, especially since we've been in their heads. The Tyrix-Poe confrontation will be fun to watch. Tyrix, as we saw in the flashbacks, is obsessive, and right now he's obsessed with destroying Poe, which will lead to Tyrix's own destruction in the end. But what do you think? Who is the spy? And how bad do you think Tyrix's beatdown of Poe will be before Poe just escapes again? Next, let's go on to Han Solo issue number 5. This saw the end of his miniseries, which is pretty disappointing for me, because I felt like it could still go on, and it was a really good miniseries, but we know in the future Han will have more miniseries of his own. So again, here's a quick refresher just in case you forgot or you're not up to date. It is a period of unrest. In a galaxy oppressed by the Empire's merciless cruelty, there is little hope for the future. Despite that, rebels have banded together to fight back against corruption. Han Solo, untrusting by nature, returned to smuggling, but when Princess Leia gave him an offer too good to refuse, he found himself racing the Millennium Falcon and one of the most notorious races in the galaxy, the Dragon Void, as a cover to find a potentially traitorous rebel spy. After a deadly start to the race, Han manages to get all the rebel spies on board, which is great, except it's discovered that one of them was turned by the Empire and has been killing the other spies. Last issue ended with the Imperials after the Dragon Void racers and one of the spies murdered on Han's ship. We begin where we left off, Imperials trying to stop the pilots of the Dragon Void race. Han asks the other pilots if they have weapons, and they, in so many words, tell him no, and besides, it is a death sentence to attack an Imperial. Han doesn't care and fires on the Empire anyways. At the same time, Han is informed that one of the rebel spies has been murdered. Laureano then opens a temporary window to unleash a creature that lives between the seams of space and time to devour the Imperial ships. Yeah, it got crazy. With most of the Imperials taken care of, all the pilots race into the void for the last and most dangerous part of the race. This part of space has a strange effect on ships and drains them quickly. Han tells Chewie to watch the fuel. Han addresses the rebel spies and quickly deduces it was Bot, who then charges at him with a poison needle, saying he isn't a killer. It is revealed he was brainwashed by the Empire to murder the other informants. They guess he was likely compromised during his mission, and that was the price he paid. The ships continue to race, and they reach the end, where a gate that is thousands of years old, that creates a wormhole to the beginning of the race, is waiting. The first ship to reach the gate wins and is teleported. The rest of the ships are stranded in the void with low or no fuel to wait to be rescued. Han is about to win, but then he sees Lu being fired on by the Imperials that followed them into the void, and knowing if she loses she has decided to die, he veers away from the gate and allows her to win. When it looks like the Imperials have all the racers, the gate opens from the other side. Something deemed impossible and something that has never happened before. From the gate, Lu emerges along with an army of ships. Lu explains that her people were caught between the seams of time and space with only one door that could reach them. The gate at the end of the race. A gate her people built for their exodus. Lu has finally been allowed to rejoin them because of Han. And for Han, they have come into the world one last time before they leave forever. She tells all the pilots to enter the gate, which they do. Inside, Han sees more of the glowing balls of light, the witnesses, and he tells his witness goodbye as it joins his people. Since Lu didn't go through the gate, all the pilots are technically now the winners of the Dragon Void race. Back at the rebel base, all the spies meet with Leia. Turns out Yu'il was the spy all along, pretending to be a bodyguard to act as a decoy and to keep herself safe. She gives Leia the master list with every name to keep the rebellion alive on it. Leia talks with Han, telling him his ego could have ruined everything, but she knew he'd do the right thing. She asks him if he's going to leave again, and Han tells her he'll stick around for a bit, as the rebellion wouldn't survive without him. Leia calls him an arrogant laser brain. Han retorts, "Your worshipfulness," as their hands barely touch. And if you've been reading the other series, you know that they've been dropping hints about Leia and Han's feelings for each other throughout the issues, and it can be something as small as them doing like a sideways glance or a backwards glance or barely touching each other or the little things they say to each other. So I'm really enjoying seeing how their relationship is progressing and how stubborn they are and how they just refuse to admit their feelings for each other. Alright, let's move on to Star Wars issue number 25. Here's your refresher. It is a time of renewed hope for the Rebel Alliance as heroic Rebel soldiers strive to undermine Imperial forces throughout the galaxy. The Alliance sends its heroes, Pilot Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and smuggler-turned-soldier Han Solo, to save a planet. They capture a massive Star Destroyer, attracting the attention of Darth Vader, who dispatches an elite group of stormtroopers, led by the bloodthirsty Sergeant Creel, ordering them to retake the ship. Leia, Luke, Han, and their crew arrive at the planet and are attacked by Creel and his squad. With the ship falling apart and their small forces scattered, the outcome looks bleak for the rebels. The comic starts off with one person in Creel's squad trying to take command of the ship, but unsuccessful. He tells his teammate that he should be able to control the ship from here, but something is stopping him. Someone is rerouting his attempts faster than he can, and he'd like to shake the guy's hand, and then shoot him repeatedly in the face. We jump to see that it is R2-D2 who is keeping the trooper from taking control, while C-3PO insults him for playing games. Back with the troopers, Sana shows up and starts kicking their ass. The one trooper then gives her a weapon to make it more fair because idiots. That's why. If Vader is on your ass and personally deploying you, don't fuck around, okay? Pro tip. Meanwhile, Han and Leia are holding the bridge, trying to get the TIE fighters clear so they can launch the supplies to the planet below. Han tells Leia to escape, but she refuses. Leia tells her pilots to give a path for the supplies to be deployed to the planet, which is significantly more difficult with Vader flying around, who is personally very concerned about Creel's team bringing in Luke Skywalker without injuring him. And he's a bit ticked that Creel is engaging in a lightsaber battle with Luke, as Vader considers neither of them skilled enough to be doing so. Creel is laying the smackdown on Luke, but after he taunts Luke about taking him and stopping the ship, Luke has a burst of anger, shouting, "You're not stopping this ship," and he pulls down items on Creel, knocking him out. His using the Force was so strong that Han says he felt the whole ship shudder, and Vader remarks, "The Force is definitely strong with young Skywalker." Chewie gets the reactor back online, and Luke arrives in time to save Sanaa. With Chewie getting the reactor back online, the ion cannons have been restored. Leia tells the escape pods to launch with supplies and the crew, and that she will cover them with the ion cannons. Han informs her that the controls have been shot, and Leia questions then who has been steering the ship. Amazingly, it has still been R2-D2 this entire time. Creel wakes up and realizes they can't control the ship and orders Phase 2 to go into effect, blowing the ship up. Leia and Han see the troopers retreating, but Han is the only one realizing that is a bad sign. He uses a thermal detonator to blow a hole in the side of the ship and masks to go out into space, realizing they need to get away from the ship before it blows. Han tries to shove Leia away so at the very least she can survive, but she refuses to leave him. But just in time, Sanaa and Chewie on the Falcon rescue them. They get away from the ship as it blows up. However, we don't know whether R2-D2 got away. Luke wants to go after Vader, but Leia tells him now is not the time, and that they need him to help with the mission and evacuating the wounded. The issue ends with Vader absolutely pissed. He informs Creel's squad they failed in every way. The siege was broken. The people of the planet were given relief, were given a reason to hope, and the rebels responsible escaped. Vader lets them know he doesn't tolerate failure, but they reveal they did manage a few things from that failed mission, including the capture of C-3PO. And you know C-3PO is gonna squeal like a little piggy. There's also a little comic at the end of this issue called Droid's Dilemma, and basically it's just R2-D2 trying to get a ship ready for Luke, and then all the problems he encounters running into other droids. It really doesn't matter, but if you want to read it, it's really short, and it might be worth buying the issue just to read that little small comic. Alright, lastly, let's talk about the second Star Wars annual, and here's the little blurb they had at the beginning of the issue. It is a pivotal moment in the galaxy. As the Empire continues to exert its oppressive force, the Rebel Alliance stands against their tyranny for the good of all. While heroic rebellion agents like Princess Leia strive to undermine the Imperial strongholds, the Galactic Empire continues to dominate and has doubled its efforts to eliminate any who would stand against its rule. Some choose to fight against the waves of Imperial stormtroopers, while others choose the relative safety and security of obedience. And then there are those who refuse to take a side at all. In the second Star Wars annual, we meet a new character, Pash Devane, who refuses to side with either the Rebels or the Empire. Pash was an underwater engineer who got put out of a job when the rebellion destroyed the primary industry on her planet. There isn't a lot to say about this story except she rescues Leia, who is shot, and tries to keep her alive. Leia wakes up and wrongly thinks the woman was planning on killing her. They get to know each other, and the woman helps her get off the planet and goes with Leia, realizing after helping her, she can no longer stay on the planet. Basically, the story was to show how others responded to the war and how some saw Leia. A reoccurring viewpoint is Leia is cold and unfeeling, willing to sacrifice others for her rebellion, which is partially true. Leia has done some shitty things to keep the rebellion alive. This issue also shows the immense guilt Leia feels about what she has done. In the end, Pash, who wouldn't take a side, finally joins the rebellion, seeing the hope they have. She'd accept a painful death so long as it comes hand in hand with that hope. Also, Bash named her droid Bruce, which really isn't important, but I really liked it. That is your Star Wars canon update for the month of November. Please like this video, subscribe, and come back for more Star Wars videos.